The most dangerous woman on earth is not the loudest one in the room. It's not the woman with the most followers, nor the one constantly surrounded by people. It's the woman God has hidden in silence. She walks quietly, but carries the weight of divine purpose. She may not be trending, but she's transforming. She's not noisy, but she's necessary. Because when God favors a woman, he doesn't expose her, he preserves her. There are moments in your life when everything becomes quiet. People walk away, relationships fade, conversations dry up, invitations stop, the phone doesn't ring, the applause dies, and you are left with nothing but silence, and you wonder, God, where is everybody? Let me tell you where they are. God moved them, not because you're forgotten, but because you're favored. You see, when God is about to do something significant in a woman, he removes the audience. Because the audience has a tendency to distract the actress from the script. And the script of your life was written by heaven before you were ever formed in your mother's womb. Some of you are grieving people God subtracted so he could add himself. The silence is not punishment, it's protection. God's favored woman is not always the visible one. She's often the invisible one. The one he tucks away like a seed, not because she's not ready, but because the soil isn't. God hides his woman, not because she lacks value, but because she carries too much of it. She's not loud because her spirit is listening. She's not emotional because her emotions have been disciplined. She doesn't react because she's been trained to respond only to the voice of God. When a woman walks through life unattached to the praise of men, unbothered by the opinions of critics, and unshaken by emotional storms, that is not indifference. That is divine detachment. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. You don't see her running after attention because she's already been attended to in the secret place. You don't see her fighting for love because she knows she is loved eternally, unconditionally, irrevocably. When the enemy wants to weaken a woman, he sends noise, distractions, chaos, drama, conversations that drain her, and people that delay her. But when God wants to strengthen a woman, he sends silence. Because it is only in silence that she can hear her assignment. Some of you are in a season right now where you don't feel seen, you don't feel heard, but heaven has its eye on you. You are hidden, not because you are weak, but because you are weighty. And anything with weight must be carried with care. Don't confuse man's silence with God's absence. You see, when God protects a woman, he doesn't send an army. He removes the battlefield. He doesn't build walls. He quiets the environment. Why? Because when she learns to live with silence, she learns to walk by faith. She stops living off validation and starts operating from revelation. And when you are a woman of revelation, you become unstoppable. Because your emotions no longer govern your destiny. You don't cry over what left. You discern why it did. You don't mourn the absence of people. You recognize the presence of purpose. There's something sacred about a woman who can be alone but not lonely. Silent but not silenced. Hidden but not hollow. You can't distract her because she's not desperate. You can't manipulate her because she knows the sound of her shepherd's voice. And you can't rush her because she knows the value of divine timing. God's favorite woman walks differently. She doesn't chase seasons, she becomes them. She doesn't beg for doors, she is the key. And she doesn't cry over who didn't stay, because she knows who called her. Divine silence is not absence, it's preparation. When God is silent in the life of his chosen woman, it is not because he has abandoned her, it is because he is preparing her. Silence is the sacred chamber where heaven sharpens her discernment, strengthens her resolve, and deepens her trust. In the natural, we often associate silence with rejection or distance, but in the kingdom of God, silence is intimacy. It is the holy environment where the noise of the world is muted so that the whispers of heaven can be heard. God does not speak just to entertain, he speaks to equip. And when he is not speaking, he is still working. You see, preparation is not always visible. A seed is prepared in the darkness of the soil, far away from the eyes of men. There's no applause underground. There's no recognition beneath the surface. But in that hidden place, life is forming. And so it is with God's favorite woman. He allows her to walk through seasons of silence, not to punish her, but to purify her, to strip her of dependency on voices that do not carry divine weight, to mature her so she does not need confirmation from people when she already carries revelation from heaven. While others are seeking platforms, she is being built. While others are chasing crowds, she is communing with the Creator. This kind of preparation cannot be rushed. God is not in a hurry with the woman. He intends to carry something eternal. So when you feel that silence, don't panic. It is heaven working in you for what is coming through you. You are not waiting on God. God is preparing you to be worth the wait. Silence is the sound of sacred construction. God's favorite woman is often misunderstood because heaven does not announce her process. She is walking through a divine development that does not make sense to those around her. While others are being celebrated for what is seen, she is being shaped for what is unseen. The world honors results, but God honors refinement. Her journey is private, sacred, and often silent, not because she is forgotten, but because she is being formed. People don't understand her choices, her distance, her quiet strength, or her unwavering discipline because they cannot see what heaven is doing behind the scenes. When God begins to shape a woman for a divine assignment, he does not put her on display too soon. He does not explain her to those who do not carry the spiritual maturity to handle her future. He does not defend her to those who misjudge her silence, her standards, or her separation. She walks through seasons where she is wrongly labeled cold, distant, too intense, too serious, too different. But the misunderstanding is part of the molding. The silence of heaven is not just the absence of noise, it is the protection of what is precious. People want access to her, but God restricts it. Not because she is better, but because she is burdened with a call too heavy for careless company. She can't afford to be understood by the wrong people because premature validation could derail her process. Heaven refuses to reveal what is still under construction. So she is misunderstood, not because she is lost, but because she is hidden. And when the time is right, God will not explain her. He will reveal her. The same voices that questioned her silence will one day witness her assignment and know that the quiet was not her weakness. It was her covering. Emotional detachment is not coldness, it's consecration. When God sets a woman apart for himself, he begins by training her emotions. Not to shut them down, but to sanctify them. He teaches her how to love without losing herself, how to feel deeply without being driven by feelings, and how to stand firm even when everything around her is unstable. This kind of detachment is not rooted in pride or distance. It's rooted in clarity. It is the result of being anchored in something deeper than approval, affection, or attention. It is a holy separation from anything that pulls her away from the presence of God and the purpose he placed within her. Many confuse emotional detachment with hardness of heart, but it is actually the opposite. It is a heart so soft toward God that it no longer needs the noise of man to feel secure. It is a woman who has cried, surrendered, released, and now walks in quiet strength. She has loved and been broken, trusted and been betrayed, opened up and been misunderstood, but none of that defines her anymore. Why? Because the breaking made her better. The silence taught her discipline. The pain became the classroom where wisdom was born. She is not easily shaken anymore, not because she doesn't care, but because she has learned to care with boundaries. She doesn't chase validation because she has discovered her value. She doesn't react to every situation because she has trained her spirit to respond, not perform. This emotional detachment is sacred. It is her shield. It allows her to walk through storms with peace and through loneliness with purpose. She can be present without being pulled. She can give without being drained. Her detachment is not a flaw, it is a sign of divine preparation. When God is silent around her, it's because he's speaking through her future. The silence in her present is not a sign that God has stopped speaking. It's a sign that he's already declared something into her tomorrow. Heaven doesn't always give verbal updates when the outcome has already been settled. This woman may be looking for confirmation, for signs, for clear answers, but instead, all she hears is silence. And yet, doors begin to close, people begin to leave, the season begins to shift. That is not coincidence. It is orchestration. God has already moved in her future, and what she is experiencing in her present is the alignment of heaven with her purpose. She may feel abandoned, confused by the quiet, wondering why the same God who used to speak so clearly now seems distant. But he has not changed, his strategy has. There comes a point in every purpose-driven woman's life where the Father stops repeating what he's already established. He doesn't give her more instructions because she's standing in the middle of prophecy being fulfilled. The silence is not a void. It's a sign. God is no longer just talking, he is doing. And because he's working ahead of her, he pulls back voices around her. He limits distractions, shuts down options, and even removes certain relationships, not because she failed, but because her future can no longer accommodate the noise of her past. God doesn't shout when the blueprint is already written. He expects trust. He requires obedience. Her future is carrying his voice, and she must now walk by faith, not by explanation. This silence becomes the training ground for discernment. She doesn't need to hear something new. She needs to walk in what's already been spoken. The future is calling her forward, and the silence is proof that heaven has already gone ahead. Silence is the divine womb where purpose is conceived. It is not an empty space, it is a sacred place. Just as the womb carries life in secret, so too does the silence of God carry the seeds of destiny. In that hidden stillness, something eternal is forming. The favorite woman of God is often drawn into quietness, not because she is weak, but because God is doing a deep work within her that cannot survive public exposure. Noise can corrupt what has not fully developed. Attention can suffocate what is still being shaped. So God brings her into silence, not to isolate her, but to incubate her. This silence becomes her sanctuary, her altar, her inner chamber, where she learns to listen beyond the surface. It is in the silence that she hears herself, hears her wounds, hears her calling. Most importantly, she hears God without interference. The world measures success by visibility, but heaven measures fruitfulness by intimacy. And intimacy is only cultivated in silence. She is not wasting time in the quiet. She is receiving blueprints, strategies, and spiritual downloads for a future that is far greater than her present. Every woman who carries something from heaven must first learn to be still. The womb does not rush the process. It honors the gestation. Likewise, this woman learns patience, discernment, and trust. She stops looking for outside validation and starts leaning into divine instruction. Her prayer life deepens, her sensitivity sharpens, her capacity expands, and though nothing seems to be happening on the outside, everything is transforming on the inside. God does not conceive purpose in noise. He conceives it in silence. And only those who can endure the stillness are trusted to carry something that will shift generations. The silence is not delay, it is divine conception. Being hidden is a mark of distinction, not punishment. When God chooses to hide a woman, it is because she carries something sacred. She is not invisible because she is insignificant. She is invisible because she is invaluable. Precious things are never left exposed. Gold is buried, diamonds are hidden, pearls are concealed. And in the same way, God hides his chosen woman, not to diminish her, but to develop her in a realm where she cannot be contaminated by the expectations of others or the pressure of performance. There are seasons when she feels overlooked, bypassed, forgotten. Doors she thought would open remain shut. People she thought would stay, walk away. Opportunities she believed were certain disappear. But all of this is heaven's strategy, not rejection. God does not rush exposure because premature visibility can damage what is not yet prepared to carry influence. But in the spirit, she is being sculpted, shaped into the kind of vessel that can carry weight without collapsing. This hiding place is holy. It is where she learns the voice of God without the noise of opinion. It's where she discovers her identity without needing affirmation. It's where she becomes intimate with destiny without being distracted by applause. God is not delaying her life. He is defining her soul. And when he hides her, he also hides her purpose. So no counterfeit can attach itself to what heaven is still maturing. To be hidden by God is to be marked for something greater than the moment. It means he is taking his time, because what he's building in her cannot be rushed. She is not behind. She is beneath the hand of God, being cultivated in silence for an assignment that only the prepared can carry. But God's favorite woman often walks alone, not because she is unloved, but because she is being led. Her solitude is not a symptom of rejection. It is the strategy of refinement. Heaven calls her into isolation to remove the distractions that dilute her discernment. She walks paths that others avoid. She faces silence that others run from. She embraces seasons that others misinterpret, and yet she does not fight the solitude, because her spirit knows that the separation is sacred. It is in the aloneness that her identity is clarified, her purpose is purified, and her strength is solidified. Many around her may misread her solitude as weakness or loneliness, but they do not see the divine companionship she walks with. God becomes her closest voice, her only counselor, her secret covering. In her quiet walk, she learns to depend solely on the one who called her. She doesn't need constant conversation to feel connected. She doesn't need company to feel comforted. She doesn't need a crowd to feel confident, because in the silence, she's been introduced to something stronger than approval. She's encountered the presence of God. She learns to walk without clinging, to love without losing, and to give without expecting. Her isolation teaches her independence from things that once controlled her emotions. She stops chasing relationships that drain her. She no longer begs to be chosen. She knows she's already been set apart. Her aloneness becomes her anointing. It shields her from manipulation, from distraction, from settling for less than what heaven designed. Walking alone does not mean she is lost. It means she is being led where few are willing to go. It means she's been handpicked to carry something weighty, something holy. Her solitude is not punishment, it is preparation. God trusts her with isolation because he's preparing her for impact. There is a peace that surrounds the faithful woman of God, and it is not the kind the world gives. It is born from a place of divine trust. She does not need to fight to be seen, argue to be heard, or strive to be accepted. Why? Because she understands that what is hers is already secured in heaven. She is not chasing anything. She is aligning with everything God already spoke over her life. That alignment produces a peace that confuses people. She doesn't panic when others rush. She doesn't collapse under pressure. She doesn't manipulate outcomes. She simply rests in obedience, in confidence, and in clarity. This kind of peace is not passive, it is powerful. It is the evidence of a woman who has matured beyond fear and grown past desperation. She no longer needs to convince people of her worth. She no longer runs after doors. She knows that any door God has for her will not need to be forced open. Her silence is not absence, it is awareness. She is aware that timing belongs to God, that purpose cannot be stolen, and that divine favor cannot be fabricated. When others see her calm, they assume she's unbothered, but it's deeper than that. She is rooted in truth, in faith, and in the knowledge that no weapon formed against her will prosper. She knows that delays are not denials, and silence is not disapproval. She walks with a stillness that comes from knowing heaven is behind her, even when nothing around her makes sense. Her peace is a weapon. It shields her from panic, from pressure, and from performing for applause. Because what God has spoken over her is already sealed, and she knows no matter what, she cannot miss what's meant for her. God trains his favorite woman in silence, because what she carries cannot be sustained by noise. When heaven entrusts a woman with influence, he must first build in her a foundation that cannot be shaken by public opinion. The training ground is not the platform, it is the private place. In that quiet, hidden classroom, she learns the disciplines of listening, waiting. The silence is not a pause in her destiny, it is the preparation of her character. Before God ever releases her voice to the world, he must ensure she can hear his voice in the quiet. This training teaches her that not every battle is hers to fight, not every opinion is hers to address, and not every opportunity is hers to take. She learns to move by instruction, not emotion. She learns to remain still when others panic, to stay grounded when others compromise. Heaven's silence sharpens her spiritual sensitivity. She starts recognizing divine timing. She no longer reacts impulsively. She responds from a place of spiritual insight. She understands that waiting is not wasting. It is working. God is doing more in her silence than others are doing with their voices. In this quiet season, she also learns what to release. God shows her the relationships, routines, and mindsets that cannot follow her into her next level. She becomes a woman of precision, not performance. Her decisions become sharper, her vision becomes clearer, and her spirit becomes unshakable. She is being trained for sustainability, not popularity. Many people can start, but few can endure. That's why God trains her in silence. So when the weight of the assignment comes, she will not be moved by applause, pressure, or fear. She will be anchored by obedience. The silence surrounding God's favorite woman is not abandonment, it is alignment. God is not ignoring her. He is orchestrating something far beyond what her natural eyes can see. While she is praying for answers, heaven is arranging outcomes. While she is asking for direction, God is aligning connections, preparing rooms, shifting hearts, and removing obstacles she doesn't even know exist. The silence is not a sign that nothing is happening. It's a sign that everything is coming into divine order. And because the work is spiritual, it must be done in silence. Away from interference, away from sabotage, and away from the premature gaze of others. This kind of alignment requires trust. God often strips her of options so she'll depend only on him. He closes doors not to punish her, but to redirect her to the right ones. He delays certain outcomes because premature access would destroy what he's still maturing in her. She doesn't always understand it, but her spirit begins to recognize it. The discomfort becomes familiar. The waiting becomes worship. The silence becomes sacred. Over time, she begins to notice the pattern. Every time God goes silent, something major begins to shift. He doesn't speak when he's busy building. He doesn't give details when he's writing chapters. So she stops panicking in the silence and starts praising. She stops striving and starts surrendering. She knows now that the silence is not empty, it is pregnant with promise. When everything seems still, God is often moving the most, aligning people, timing, resources, and strategy to bring his word to pass in her life. The silence becomes her signal. It tells her to stay positioned, to remain faithful, and to keep her heart pure. Because when the alignment is complete, what God has prepared will not just arrive, it will arrive right on time. Beloved, never mistake silence for absence. When heaven goes quiet around you, it is because God is doing his deepest work within you. You are not forgotten. You are being forged. You are not overlooked. You are being overshadowed by the hand of a wise and intentional Father. The silence is not a void, it is a voice. It is the sound of destiny unfolding behind the veil, the evidence that God trusts you with stillness because he's preparing you for significance. When God protects his favorite woman with silence, it is because what she carries is too sacred for noise, too valuable for the crowd, and too eternal to be rushed. He shields her from distractions, detaches her from the shallow, and surrounds her with a stillness that only the called can endure. That silence becomes her shield. That stillness becomes her strength. And when the time is right, when heaven has completed its alignment, when her soul is stable and her vision is clear, then God will speak again. And when he does, it won't be to explain what he was doing. It will be to release what he has already prepared. So if you are in the silent season, do not fear. You are not in the dark. You are under divine development. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. Stay still. Stay surrendered. Stay strong, because the silence is not the end. It is the echo of something greater that is coming. And when it arrives, you will understand that the silence was the sound of heaven trusting you.